Hi everybody, my name is Jim Scholes and I'm the photographer here at Brookfield Zoo. I'm your bringing the zoo to you today, and I'm just going to kind of give you a little bit of insight into my job and what I do every day, what you might think I would do and what you think or wouldn't think I would do. So a lot of what I do is obviously taking photos for publications for the zoo. Two of these are impact reports, one of them are members magazines. These magazines, basically, I do general photos that they choose from to put in the magazines. There are some things that are requested that I'll do, but generally out in the park, kind of doing my thing. So, aside from these kinds of things, I also do photographs of guests in the park. Some of the things I would do are giraffe feedings, wallaby encounters, anything in the zoo that might involve guests. So, part of my job is animal and people. So sometimes, I hope you guys don't mind if I pull this down a little bit. It's really hot out here. But a lot of the time, I'll have to go out into the park and just do what I can do. That involves trying to think ahead, think of things for social media, think of things for annual reports, members magazines. Lynette right now is showing some photographs of the seals, which you may be thinking, wow, that's kind of boring, they're just seals. But if you look at a seal in the sun and when it's dry, it's got a completely different look than a seal that's in the water. A lot of seals, or a lot of people don't know that seals actually have hair. They molt on a regular basis. And this is just one more instance where you could take a photograph to show a different seal set or a setting where a seal might be in. Also just how different they could look in a different environment. I also do photographs. Someone might call and say, actually just 2 weeks ago, someone called and said we need a photograph of a hot dog to advertise some of our new food through our new guest services or our new food group, SSA. This Saturday I'll be doing photographs of Zoo Brew, which is another event that we haven't had since the pandemic, and this will be a first time for that. Sunday night I do a women's board benefit here in the park called By Sea. So as you can see, things are just really, really different for me. Once again, people will say it must be nice to take photographs of animals all day long, and you know what? It must be. I don't generally get to do that all day long. Sometimes I might only do animal photos 5% of the week, 10% of the week, but every day is different and definitely an adventure. So yeah, that's kind of some of the stuff that I do.
So what kind of equipment do you use here?
These are all my equipment is Nikon. These are two cameras that I use specifically, a D5 and an 810. And as you can see, I am not the best in terms of caring for equipment. I shouldn't be leaving these laying on the ground like this. These are two lenses that I use quite a bit. This is an 800 millimeter lens, and this is a 200 to 400 millimeter lens. When I first started here, we used to be able to get a little bit closer to animals in terms of going over fences, being by moats. That's something that by today's standards we just don't do it. So these lenses have done amazing things in terms of me being able to get up closer. You know, a lot of people will say, have you ever been able to touch an animal? And a lot of times with lenses like this, the detail is so great that, you know, what I try to show with my photographs is hair, texture in animals.
Yeah.
Things that you might not expect, like I said with the seals. If you look at them now, they're super fuzzy. So once again, with the quality of this equipment and what I try to do, you know, you get some really great results. And these definitely have changed my life in terms of my career here at the zoo. They were actually donated by an anonymous donor to me, and I thank God every day for that donor and for the changes he's made in my career and just what I've produced over the last few years.
Yeah.
Especially during the pandemic.
Now, I know you get really, really good shots of extreme close-ups of animals. It makes you feel like you are right there within a couple of feet. So this is the equipment that you're using then to take it. Wow, that's amazing.
And everything I do, I try to crop in the camera. I really try not to do anything in terms of my work, in terms of really cropping in tightly or manipulating, photoshopping anything. I try not to make anything false. I try to let, you know, reality be what reality is. A perfect example is Whirl, our tiger that everyone loves. As everyone knows, she lost her tail when she was just a youngster, and for a long time we tried to make photos that didn't quite show that, but that's what makes Whirl Whirl.
Yeah.
And we're proud of Whirl, and we love Whirl, and we hope she's here for years and years to come. But it's things like that that.
So one thing I noticed is missing from this piece of equipment that I use every day is a tripod. So
Yeah, I don't do tripods.
do everything handheld?
I do everything handheld.
Yeah, that's amazing.
My idea
I don't
of
have
a
that steady of a
tripod-
hand.
My idea of a tripod is basically getting myself up into a corner or against something where I can kind of brace myself and be as steady as possible.
Mm-hmm.
You can also get yourself up into the corner of a wall, possibly, like sit down like this. Really brace yourself and just try to be as still as possible.
Yeah.
My reason behind not using tripods are more that things happen fast. And if
Yes.
the camera's on a tripod, with a still tripod, the videos are more able to turn and swing and all that stuff. But with me, I just take too much of a risk of missing a shot if I have a camera on a tripod.
Yeah. So looking at these guys over here, it did make me think of one other thing that you do. The veterinary
Yes.
procedures and things like that. So it's not obvious on any of them right now, but every once in a while you'll see a missing patch of fur on an animal or something like that. Do you, and I should explain, that's usually from where they've had an IV during a medical procedure.
Uh-huh.
So do you Photoshop that kind of stuff out, or do you just let it be in there and be natural?
My rationale is if the animal is on exhibit or in its enclosure, habitat, whatever you would like to refer to it as, and it's something that the public can see, I almost find it more trying to hide something. Because we will do press and people will come in and press photographers, and they'll come in and they'll do their photography and put it out there, and sometimes there may be something that we shoot that they might shoot the same thing, and we may have fixed something and they didn't. And in my opinion, it just kind of shows that you're just trying to not hide something, but just not draw attention to it.
Right.
And once again, if it's in public view and someone can take it with their own camera or the likes, like little Sabina right there in the middle. I don't know if everyone knows, but they came in as stranded pups from California. She had a problem with her left eye, and her left eye had to be removed. There's no way we would do anything like Photoshop an eye onto her side, because that would just be wrong.
Okay.
And therefore we just kind of try to, you can photograph the animals just to not draw attention to those imperfections. And that's a lot of what I do. Just, you shoot her from the right side so you don't necessarily see the eye.
Yeah.
But in reality, that is why she's here, and we do show it when we feel comfortable.
We do have a couple questions from people,
Sure.
but before I get to those, I do want to ask you, what's your favorite animal to photograph?
Oh boy. To say I have a favorite is difficult. I actually have animals that I've grown quite fond of, and I've done that because of things I've seen in them as I've basically grown with them. Topeka Dolphin I always refer to as, I first met her when she was 11 years old and came in here, and she'll be 40, I believe, next year.
Yeah.
I've seen her turn from an 11-year-old animal into a unbelievably maternal, caring, nurturing mother that one time fostered her grandchild until her daughter could take on the responsibilities of raising it herself. Topeka is one of my favorite animals, and it's more because of what I've seen and experienced with her, as opposed to, say, taking a photograph of a dolphin. Binti Gorilla is the same with me. The first time I met her, she was 3 years old. She had just come here from, I believe, San Diego or another institution, and she's over 30 now, and I've known her since she was 3 too. And I've seen her go through things that make me appreciate her for the animal she is, and not even an animal she is, but the being that she is, and not necessarily a bird.
Now, as a photographer, you spend a lot of time with the animals, because you can't just get the perfect shot in one shot. So it does seem that you have the opportunity to kind of learn who they are and even develop relationships with them. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's Once again, I see, just like you do, a lot of the babies the day they're born, or maybe a day or two after, once it's considered safe for us to enter an exhibit or an area to photograph them. And a lot of these animals you do see go from a baby to a youngster to a juvenile to an adult and a parent themselves. And when you are able to get closer to these animals, I don't know that I would say an animal necessarily knows me, but I do certainly think that they know you, possibly by the sound of your voice, the tone of your voice, maybe the smell of your deodorant. Just something about a human. I mean, animals are just so specific in their ways. And although I'd love to think everybody here loves me in terms of the animals, maybe they just like my deodorant. I don't know. But yeah, there are those certain animals. William Wallaby at Wild Encounters, I've known him since he was 6 months old, I believe. And we do donor tours with him, or VIP tours. And the biggest problem is he comes immediately to me, and I can't get him with the guests because he comes to me and will not leave my side.
Yeah.
So that is something that makes you feel special when an animal does kind of become accustomed with you and just is comfortable with you being around.
All right, so someone wants to know, how many pictures do you have to take in order to get that perfect shot?
Well, as you know, I was at Seven Seas yesterday trying to get some photographs, and out of about 300, I probably got 2 that I was happy with, and honestly, I'm not really that happy with those. I'll probably go back and do some more if I can. Sometimes it's a one shot. Sometimes you go out there and it happens immediately. Other times you have to go out there and go out once, go out twice, go out 3 times, go out 4 times until you get something. So yeah, sometimes it happens right away, and other times it's really kind of a time-consuming endeavor.
Well, yeah, because sometimes the animals just aren't necessarily cooperating, or the light isn't quite right. Yeah.
Just like us, animals also have days when they might have a tummy ache, they might just be hot. I came over here today with you because I thought that they would be out in the pool swimming around and splashing around and having fun because it was 90. And we're dripping sweat, but they're out here. Well, there's a little activity. Once again, a photograph like that where Owen is filling. Owen is a new male that arrived here a couple of months ago, I believe. And so just that whole thing where they open their mouths. I don't know that I would show a mouth to mouth so much because it could be considered aggressive. But it is an opportunity where if I took a photograph of the dental, like the mouth open, you could see the teeth and the mouth and all that, that we could use that for an education piece. Or if someone says, do you have a photograph of a sea lion's teeth? We can get that under anesthesia if they're in a veterinary procedure, but it's always better if you can do it when the animal is awake. And, just in a situation where they're kind of comfortable.
Now, does the zoo sell any of your prints?
To my knowledge, the only thing in terms of sales of my things would be something in the gift shop. Possibly on a postcard. I know our AZAC group used to have some photographs for sale that would benefit them in the gift shop. I'm not sure if those are still there, but yeah, most of my work is more given as donations or to major funders, major corporations. People just as a thank you, we might make a nice canvas print for them, something they could hang in an office that would remind them of us and also be a way that they can talk about us to others if they come into their areas and stuff. So.
Now, how long have you been doing this?
I started here at the zoo, I believe, towards the end of 1987. So I've been here for over 34 years, and I've been full-time for 25 and a half. I just celebrated my 25th anniversary March 6th.
Oh, congratulations.
So yes, it's been a long time, but it's gone by faster than anything I could have ever imagined.
And how did you get interested in photography, but specifically in zoo photography? How did you end up here?
Well, I actually grew up in Brookfield. I was born and raised here. I went to grade school up at Gross Elementary, and I went to high school right here at the high school next to the zoo. So I spent pretty much 3, 4, 5 times a week here during the summer when I was a kid. Always wanted to go into animal care, but in high school I was basically kind of swayed into a different direction. I had done some photography that was well received, and my counselors told me I should look into that. So I did, went to school for that. Out of school, I went into more of a catalog type work, catalog area, doing things for Spiegel, Land's End, companies like that. Also worked for some modeling agencies, and it just didn't satisfy me in any way. So I wanted to go back to school and get a master's degree in zoology, so I called the zoo to ask if they knew any schools that offered that. And they asked what I did, and I told them photography. They said they were looking for a volunteer photographer. Would I like to come? And that's how it all started. I did that for about a year and a half, and then did still want to get into the animal care part. So I worked at the animal commissary here at the zoo for 2.5 years. I also worked at Oak Park Animal Hospital. I worked at Trailside Nature Museum as an animal care specialist, raising orphaned and injured wildlife. And just when I was getting to the point of really getting a lot of animal experience, the zoo's photographer left, and they asked if I was going to apply. And I hate to say I said no at first, because I really was intent on getting into the animal area. But at that point, I thought it was a really great opportunity. And doing the photography, I'm also allowed to be with the animals and really get a lot of close-up and just experiences that a lot of people don't. Even some of the keepers, I get to experience things a little bit closer than sometimes if there's an animal in quarantine, or we see animals in veterinary procedures before animal care staff even gets to see those animals. And once again, that kind of helps build the relationships between us and the animals we're photographing.
Right. Well, and not only that, you get to be with all of the animals around the zoo, from the smallest to the biggest, so you get to see everything instead of just being, in one area.
I do. And it also, it's a, sometimes it'll tug at the heartstrings. At times you have to say goodbye, whether that's, an animal passing or an animal moving on to another institution. So it's an emotional job. And just this kind of stuff here, this is exactly what I look for in my photography, is not necessarily a photo of a sea lion laying on a rock sleeping, but what Owen is doing right now with just this touching Sabina's whiskers and that, it's such a sweet, it's an emotional, I don't know what the word would be. It's just, it evokes emotion. And that's what I look for, is I want to see a connection between a mom and a newborn baby. I want to see a connection between a 2-year-old child feeding a giraffe and not being able to take a breath because she's so excited to be that close to a giraffe. That's what I look for when I do my work. I'd love to say I just want to go out and get a picture of a lion laying on a rock, beautifully lit and super focused and all that stuff, but Brutus or Titus jumping up in the air trying to catch a robin or a duck or something in the yard. It's just, that's the kind of things I look for. It's just to show that the animal is thinking and active, and really just, each one is so different, unbelievably different, and that's what I try to do, is also share the characteristics of those individual animals and try to highlight them as they are.
I did have one more question.
Sure.
I think you may have sort of answered it a little bit.
That's okay, I'll do it again.
What's your favorite part of the job?
It's so hard to say. I've had so many opportunities here. I was able to go to Australia for 16 days and do some work at a conservation park we had there. I've been to British Columbia, 20 feet away from a wild grizzly bear.
Wow.
Photos are pretty much in focus, not great because I was shaking so bad.
I would be too.
I'm not using a tripod. It was a little intense, but I've been able to do some travel on the zoo. Not anymore, really, because of COVID and just, in terms of financial things, we need to make sure we're good here at home.
Yeah.
But once again, I was in a kayak one time in British Columbia, and a mother grizzly bear was on the bank with her 2 yearlings, and she started going into the water and started swimming to me.
Oh.
And when she was about 15, 20, 25 feet away, she sniffed a couple times, looked at me, and then just swam to the other bank. But people that were with me on the trip kept saying, just enjoy it, you're never going to experience that again. And I wasn't quite sure if that meant because this was the last photo I would take, or if this was just an experience I was going to enjoy. And it was definitely an experience.
You didn't get eaten though, did you?
I did not get eaten. She didn't care. I think she wanted to come and There again, smell my deodorant. So once again, these are here you go with the kind of things I look for.
Yeah.
You know, once again, try to stay away from the open mouth because that can sometimes be aggressive. But, you know, for a social media post, a photograph like that could be an Instagram-worthy picture that, you know, might go all over the place. So, and you never know what's a hit. I took a photograph once of Jimmy Grizzly Bear with an ice block on his belly, and that went to almost every country and state and all over the world. So.
Yeah, it's always exciting when your work is
and it's not only
viewed.
my work that it's exciting to see out there, but it's the fact that Brookfield Zoo's name is seen throughout the world. So.
All right. Well, our friends have left us, so let's wrap up.
Okay. Well, thank you again, everybody. I really, really appreciate it. I personally don't do any kind of social media. I'm an old guy and graduated in 1984, but I do occasionally see comments that you all leave on the Facebook pages and the Instagram pages about my work, and I can't tell you how much that means to me.
Yeah.
I come here every day to try to make not myself happy, but you all happy, the zoo happy, and just to make a difference in the animal world. And I'm really grateful you guys pick up on it. So thank you for your time, and appreciate you taking your time to spend with me today.